Hello, Sheena Douglas here. What you're looking at this time is one of the cards that has been one of the most frequently requested techniques that I show you, and it's how to create this really dramatic, gorgeous rays of light in this dark arches scene. So this is what I'm going to do, but I'm going to change the colours. I just wanted to show you some variety here. So we've used distress inks and things like Dusty Concord, Faded Jeans, Black Suit, but what I'm going to show you is this colour scheme here. Okay, so this I'll tell you what we're going to use as I'm using it. So this is what we're going to do, so let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is a piece I use and I love, Centura Pearl card. Not the shiny side, the matte side. Okay, so cut it to roughly size but a little bit larger. Then what you're going to need is a series of distress inks, because I want this really fiery and glowy and warm. I'm going to start with the lightest distress ink first I'm going to use, which is Mustard Seed. So I'm going to take some cut and dry foam and I'm going to literally pick up quite a bit by pressing a bit more firmly on your ink pad than you normally would, and I'm going to start splodging, like good splodges of colour, really good heavily splodges of colour. That's Mustard Seed. I'm going to continue, but then I'm going to go to the next lightest, which is my Barn Door. Fire Brick is going to work great for you as well. So in the spaces and towards the centre, I especially want these fiery colours. Okay, so a bit of Barn Door. Now they're going to start merging in together, and that's great, that's what you want. Bit of Barn Door, and then maybe a little bit further out, because I don't want it just so contrived that it's just slap bang in the middle. And then I'm going to go in with some Walnut, but again Vintage Photo would work for you just as well. So I'm going to go around the outsides and towards the middle with Vintage Photo. Now if you keep going, you'll find that these colours do start to blend and merge, and you need to have enough on there to really nicely saturate the card. You want a good covering on there. When you put your lids back, make sure you put the lids on the right colours, because I've been caught before and I've had psychedelic little people when I've gone to think I'm going to do a nice vintage looking walnut stain little image of a person and they've turned out to be green or something. So you continue with that, and then until you get something like this. And that, at that point, you're going to dry it with your heat tool. Not too much, but just for about a minute, because you don't want this to be really wet for the next stage, which is going to be stamping it with my Ancient Arches stamp here, which is from the Little Bit Sketchy range and the Sheena range. So as you can see, and I have got it on one of my lovely new clear, crystal clear, perfectly clear rocker blocks, which for me just make complete sense. So again, they're under the Sheena range as well. The extra large ones, I always tell people just buy your extra large rocker blocks, because you can stamp even the tiniest stamp, because you don't get double images like you do on acrylic blocks. You don't need to mount them, you don't even need to be careful about inking up, but you can if you want as well, because you can see through them, over stamp really easily, even though it's rubber and you've got the crosshairs. So anyway, enough of that. I'm going to ink, first of all, because this is, look how pretty is this, it's well loved and used. For all of you who've got tables that you think look pretty firm and but they're a plastic surface, really do get yourself a piece of offcut MDF or one of your glass cutting mat and use that whenever you're stamping, because I've been caught out so many times where I forgot to do that. And even with the best of mechanisms like your rocker blocks, because it's not a stable surface, you'll not get a really good clean stamped image. So I want to ink this up really well, but it's important that you dry that basic coat of ink just a little bit before you do this bit, or you're not going to get a good image. Now I'm just going to turn the card around to make things easier, and I'm going to place this sort of in the middle. I'm not worried, because I'm going to trim it down to size. When you're stamping a large image, especially with the large rocker blocks, hold your hands towards the centre and rock, and you get a really gorgeous, even on top of a well inked piece of card, you're going to get a good clean image. Don't hold your rocker blocks out here, especially with large images. Hold it here and you get a bit more pressure in the middle. Right, now the good part, this is where we're going to play. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually trim that down to size a little bit. So you see I've got an uneven border around there, so quickly just trim it down to size. I want some border, but I don't want a huge border, and I'll show you how we're going to blend that in a little bit. That's better, we'll stick with that. Okay, so that's trimmed down. Now I'm going to take my black soot and I'm going to start to blend around the edges here, because I don't want to be able to see that really, you know, the line where the image starts as clearly. So if you blend it with the dark, again, it makes the middle pop out more, and you get rid of that line where the image starts. And if you can hear any little beastly noises in the background, it's just because we have a house full of cats and dogs, and they always appear when I'm doing something when I don't want them. But I'm sure animal lovers out there will know exactly what it's like. So if you just continue, see now how that looks like it just appears from a nice glowy kind of ethereal image in the centre, and that's blended in great. Now, this is the really good fun bit. You're going to need a round brush. Paint Fusion brushes every time for me. The number 6 round, perfect. Don't try this with a water brush. It'll lead to bad things, because water brushes are just too wet. You can't control the amount of water. They do what they're going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight the brightest part on this image, and I believe the brightest part is going to be this arch in the middle, because that's outside. So think of this bit in the middle as outside. So let's get that as light as we can. Wet your brush, but don't have it so the water's dripping off it. Have a piece of kitchen paper in your hand, ready, and start to agitate the surface of the card very lightly. You're not scrubbing, you're not removing paper layers if you can help it. You're just placing water on there and just encouraging it to lift the ink, and try to keep it to the place you want it. Now look, already we've got a really nice light archway there. So just, we can go over it again, but be careful, you don't want to go over to where you've got paper start to peel off. So as soon as that starts to happen, quick, because you've done enough. Right, now the next thing is this column here. Right, no, let's go to the window. There's a window here. Now this is a little bit trickier, because right up to this column here is going to be light. So I'm going to go down to there, up to where the windowsill appears, which is along here. So let's do a light column of well, highlight there where it's going to be really bright coming in that window, just so we've marked it out. And then I don't want a flat bar, I want rays. So I'm going to follow where the arch goes here. It's kind of, you can see if you follow the line of this arch and then go in straight lines, because you know light travels straight lines, so you want to continue that and just drag some water out. You can always put more on, so don't be too heavy handed at the start, but just drag it out like this, and then blot and do a bit at a time, and then you'll start to get these divine heavenly rays just moving into that that ruin of an abbey, or whatever it is. Could be Hogwarts if you're that way inclined, which, you know, some of us are. It could be anything really. It's just one of those, you know, really good gothic-y, medievally looking images that are either can be having a religious slant if you want, or it can have just a, you know, popular TV fiction kind of thing for you, whatever you want to make it. And then just keep going and just drag them and continue like this. Now I'm going to continue. I've got one I've done earlier, but this is all you do. Just work it a little bit at a time, because you can strengthen it a bit more towards the centre. So see, it's faded. I'm going to do a little bit more heavier water work towards this bit here, so it's still getting brighter towards that arch, but it's still not solid. So continue with that. The next bit you want is the column here, because the light's going to catch here. So straight down here, and then as you can see, they've made a big stone, so just where the light would kind of catch the top of the stones. You don't want to go too heavy with this, but just a little bit to drag it in, blot it, and all of a sudden it starts to get definition and light. There's an arch here, so this could catch some light, and you can see, oops, just move that there. It's got like a series of moulding, so maybe not all the moulding would catch the light, just that raised areas. You don't have to be that specific and that careful and tight with where you're highlighting. It'll, you know, just kind of a rough idea of where it is good enough. Maybe a little bit there, because that's the little moulding on the top of the column. That's going to catch the light. And you can see how we're going there. Now I'll move on to one I did earlier. This one here, you can see where I've continued. Now that's the archway finished. You've got the highlight here. I've put a little highlight on the floor where the light might just be streaming and catching the floor. I've highlighted the further arch just a little bit here, and oh, oops, didn't want that there. If you do catch the water when you highlight it too far out, don't worry, just let it dry. Don't do this when it's still wet. Let it dry. Dry it with the heat tool. Then go back with your cut and dry foam. You can hide that. Now the next thing I'm going to do to make that look really divine and kind of magical, let's say, is to use some Radiant Rain pourables. Now this one here, this set here, I keep them in these little tubs by the way, great way to keep them, is the Indian Sunset, I believe it's called. I keep forgetting making up names for them, but it's, yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. And it's gorgeous mica based product that lasts for ages and ages. Every time I do this, use them on a workshop, everyone goes, they don't get it at first because they think, well, why do I want these and not sprays or dabbers or whatever, but they go so far and they're a really economical way to use your product. It's a mica based solution. It's a hybrid of a watercolour and acrylic base, so it's durable. But even this one here that looks like there's not much in there is pearl gold, and I'm just going to drop a little bit on my mat here, a couple of drops. This is why you want this. Look, watch how absolutely cost effective this product is. So don't have water on your brush, just pick up a little bit of the gold and then start to just light pressure drag out some of these little rays. You don't want it to completely cover in a block solid. You want to just pick out some lines and drag it across your painting or your picture. Wait till you see this. This is amazing. This every time. To demonstrate this, you really have to see this happen to get how good. I'm hoping my amazing cameraman, that would be the Gopher, has captured this. I wish you could see the hand signals I get when I'm filming. Some of them are even broadcastable. So just continue like this. He thinks this is like Marcel Marceau. Seriously, some of them are like, what are you saying? What are you doing? It makes no sense. He thinks it does. He thinks I understand. Right, now, can you see how little I use there? Wait till you see this. Now, the thing is as well, when you dry this, it becomes much more sparkly. I'm sure you found that with mica products. It's not until you get the water away that you see the bling more. Did you see 2 drops? Right. Check this out. I'm going to put a tiny little bit there. I'm being really selective with this highlight. I don't want it everywhere. Not even as much as I did with the water highlight. Now let's get rid of that, and then I'm hoping you're going to be able to see that. If I get a thumb, I'm getting a thumbs up. I'm doing the little mica dance. Can you get the reflection? I hope so, because these lights are ridiculously bright. And I'm dying under the heat of them. So hopefully that's there, and that's it. You're done. That's the technique. Now to make the card, if you look on at sheena.tv, so www.sheena.tv, you'll see where I'm going to list the products for you, so you can have a little shopping list, so you can get it and then make it with me. And you can also, there's a gallery there where you can see finished cards using this this technique in a different colour way. But to finish it, to make a pretty card, the feathers are also from that range, the little bit sketchy range. Now these ones have just been glittered, stamped onto embossed onto acetate and black embossing powder. Turn it over, use a dries clear glue, so a clear PVA, glitter on the reverse side. When they're dry, turn them over, cut them out, and you've got your feathers there as well. And that is it. I thank you very much. Cheers for watching.